speaking to Quraysh in a different way than he spoke to what? The people of Medina. Medina, ayat have to be long. Explanation. Why? Wisdom. And one of the companions grabbed Umar by the garment. And he told him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, watch what you say. And you give a reminder to a certain audience, and that video gets taken and gets put on YouTube. Now the audience is everyone. And everyone understands different what you're saying. And then a snippet is made, and you all know the story. This is the first time he's hearing the hadith from the Prophet. So he goes, listen, I like what I heard. The wordings, the structure, the eloquence of the person who said this. Because this is the Prophet who said this. He said, I want to learn this knowledge.
من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين.
And there's something special I want you guys to know about the Quran that came down in Meccan period versus the ones that came down in Medinan period. The Quran that came down in Mecca came down to Arabs who were very eloquent speakers. Quraysh were very eloquent speakers. Because why were they very eloquent speakers? Quraysh, the people the Prophet was from, is because they were the custodians of the Kaaba. They used to look after the Kaaba. So all the tribes would come and they would pick the best words that they use and they would borrow it, and they made the best flavor, the best language for themselves. Make sense? So they were considered to be the most, the purest, the most eloquent speakers of the Arabic language, Quraysh. Now, the surahs that came down in Mecca, Allah does not speak in length. Because the people are eloquent, they understand it quickly. Make sense? So when you look at the Meccan surahs, you see they're very short verses. They don't need explanations and clarifications. Because they're already what? Eloquent. They can read between the lines. They know what the word means and what it implies. This teaches us how you should speak to the audience that you're speaking to and formulate your words accordingly. Allah is speaking to Quraysh in a different way than he spoke to what? The people of Medina. Medina, ayat have to be long. Explanation. Why? Wisdom, etc. Make sense? Because in Medina, many people came. They have different questions. They have more doubts. Does that make sense? Yes. And then, even the person who's preaching Islam in one country doesn't mean it's going to fit for another country. When you're talking to an Western audience, it's different when you're talking to the Middle East or a Muslim country audience. If you just tell them Allah said and His Messenger said, they'll be like, yeah, I take it, I obey, and I listen. You speak to a Western audience, they're going to be like, but why did Allah legislate this? They need wisdom and hikam. I want to know why. I want to know why. Does it make sense? So your lecture or your lesson has to be tailored for that audience that you're talking to. This is what the scholars refer to as mura'at muqtada al-mukhatab. Observing your audience and the people that you're talking to. لذلك Umar, when he was doing Hajj, this was the time of his khilafah. He wanted to give a sermon in Hajj. And the people in Hajj, as you know, everyone is there. This is the Khalifatul Muslimin. Umar stood up, he wanted to do, and one of the companions grabbed Umar by the garment. And he told him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, watch what you say. He said, why? He said, these people are different to the people of Medina that you're talking to. Here, there's all sorts of people listening to you. They are what? All sorts of different people. You can say things in Medina and get away with it. You can't when you say it here. Make sense? So make sure what you say that is tailored for the people that you're saying it to. Umar said, okay. He withheld from the whole thing that he wanted to say, and he held on to it until he went to Medina. And why? Medina, the scholars were there. The people who studied with the Prophet were there. So when he talks to them, they can appreciate and understand where he's coming from. That's why you suffer a lot when you teach online. And you give a reminder to a certain audience, and that video gets taken and gets put on YouTube. Now the audience is everyone. And everyone understands different what you're saying. And then a snippet is made, and you all know the story. Make sense? So that's why when you're talking, the audience are very important, and we learn that from Allah. Let me just go back to one story about observing who you talk to. There was a man, his name is called Abdullah ibn Maslamah al-Qa'nabi. Abdullah ibn Maslamah al-Qa'nabi. At this moment, he's nothing. No one knows him. He's in a house, drinking alcohol, enjoying himself, having fun. Then he hears the people all running. He hears all the people running. He says to them, where are you guys running to? They said, there's a man who has come into the city. He's a big scholar. He's knowledgeable. He knows hadith. He's a muhaddith. He's young, enjoying himself, having fun. He said, what's a muhaddith? What does a muhaddith do? They said, he narrates the hadith of the Prophet. He goes, really? Ah. He went to this man who everyone was running to. And when he came to him, he said to him, who are you? He said, my name is Shu'bah ibn Hajjaj Abu Bistam al-Ataki, one of the giants of hadith. Giants of hadith. He said, I heard that you narrate from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I heard that you have narrations that you say the Prophet said them. And you're a muhaddith. That's what I heard. Can you tell me one hadith? Tell me something. So he looks at him. He looks at his form. He has to choose from the thousands of hadith he has in his head. He has to select one that is appropriate for him. Huh? It's called what? Mura'at muqtada al-mukhatab. And he wants to tell him a hadith that can change his life, right? So he thinks about it. And then he tells him the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسِ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in the hadith that from the greatest words that was taken from the previous nations is that if you're not shy, do as you wish. Shyness is what stops a person from doing haram. If you don't have shyness, do as you wish. He heard this and it really hit his heart. It shaped him. It resonated with him. And he kept repeating it. إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسِ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. And he put his head down. He said, this is the first time he's hearing a hadith from the Prophet. So he goes, listen, I like what I heard. The wordings, the structure, the eloquence of the person who said this. Because this is the Prophet who said this. He said, I want to learn this knowledge. He took his bag and he asked the people of the city, who is the most knowledgeable man of hadith that I can go to and take from? They said, listen, he was the man, the one you just spoke to. But now that you missed that opportunity, go to Medina and there's a man by the name of Malik ibn Anas, Imam Dar al-Hijrah, Imam Malik. Go to him. He said, really? Yes, go to Imam Malik. He packed his bag, went to Imam Malik, sat with him for years until he became one of the giants of hadith, Abdullah ibn Salamat al-Qanabi. He's one of the narrators of the Muwatta. He's one of the scholars who has narrated the Muwatta from Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah. ولذلك Abdullah ibn Salamat al-Qanabi has never narrated from Hajjaj ibn Abu Bistam al-Ataki, Shu'bah ibn Hajjaj. He never narrated from him any hadith except this one hadith. Remember? إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسِ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. Then after that, Shu'bah passed away. So he has one hadith from Shu'bah and the rest he got it from Imam Malik. Are we all together? So the idea that when you're teaching, your audience and what you're going to say have to be fit. Or else, if they are upper class, learned people, studied, educated people, and you talk to them like they're young, it's a problem. And if they are young and you talk to them like they're sophisticated, learned people, the knowledge is going to go over their head. So the idea of having knowledge compatible for the audience is exactly what Islam is about. And that's something Allah gave Nabi Muhammad as a unique quality. He was able to do khutbah that the educated person felt like, wow, that was good. And the unlearned person, the Bedouin man, felt like, I understand what he's saying. Striking that balance in the middle is what the Prophet was given. He said it about himself, Utitu jawami al-kalim. He said, from the blessings Allah gave me, as I was given eloquency. Allah gave this to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala.